just getting set up. I didn't put it as pre-scheduled, so hopefully people get the notification and start hopping on. Alright, so I have my machine set up for quilting. I was doing a whole bunch of quilting for cotton cuts and some things that I've been working on my own. So I'm just going to switch it over to what I use when I'm sewing a bag. But I figured normally I do this ahead of time, and one, I was running like later tonight, but two, I thought maybe it would be helpful for some people who are interested in doing quilting or sewing other things besides bags. So I was using just regular Gutermann thread. I use that when I quilt for the most part. I tried Aurifil, which is cotton, but I don't like it as much as the polyester. I found that it with this machine, it like not frayed, but like left a lot of fuzzies, and also it would like crinkle up and constantly come out of my needle. Hi Lucy, hi Nicole, how are you guys doing tonight? So what am I making tonight? I was like, what should I do, right? I have had a Winter Crescent Bag, which is one of my own patterns. It was actually my first pattern that I wrote. I've had it cut out for a long time out of jeans, like an old pair of jeans of mine that ripped. So I'm going to try to upcycle it tonight into a Winter Crescent Bag. Okay, so Nicole, I'm glad you feel that way about Aurifil, because I was hesitant to say that because I know a lot of people love Aurifil, and I thought it was going to be like this, great thread for quilting, and I was really disappointed by it. I find that it left so much more fluff in my machine, which I get because it's like a cotton compared to like a poly, but even just sewing it, like, I wouldn't hold my tails, and it curls up way more than polyester. So then I would go to sew and the thread would come out of my needle. So yeah, I've just been sticking to Gutermann now, even when I'm quilting. Hi Arnetta. So since I am doing some upcycled jeans, I am going to go with this navy. And this is from Wizardry Stitchery. You can kind of see, if you're watching through TikTok, you can see more of my thread over here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the bottom part. This is my favorite thread to use for bags on my machine. It's their Text 35. I tried 45, which I could use in the needle, but not in the bobbin. And it bothered me that like I'd have to buy two different threads. So I just use Text 35 now, both in my needle and in my bobbin. Nicole, okay, that is exactly the same thing that I was finding. And I know every machine's a little bit different, but I was having that same trouble with my machine. So I have a couple spools of Aurifil, and I don't see myself using it anymore. And I already had a bobbin pre-wound, or with some remaining of the navy, so I'm just going to use it. If it does unravel a little bit, so I just like hand wrap it around. And the other thing that I'm going to switch out is my needle. I use a 7010 universal for when I'm quilting, and for bag making, most of the time I'm using a 9014 Microtech. So I just have like this little tray that I got at Micro Center, and so I just put my needles in that, and it's gotten to the point that I use the same needles, like same sizes, that I now recognize the colorful pattern on them. So I know this is a 9014 Microtech, which I'm hoping is large enough to go through the jean material. So we'll see. I might have even bigger and a universal needle, but I'm hoping that this one will be all right. We'll find out. Okay, Arnett, I've never tried, what is it, Meteor? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Or the King Tut. I haven't tried that one. I think I've pretty much tried Gutermann because they had it at Joann's. And I had bought like one of the cases that have like 20 different colors in it. I'll have to try the others. Is the Metler and the King Tut, are they polyester or nylon, or are they cotton based? Oh, okay. For quilting, oh, I'll have to check that out. I've heard great things about glide thread as well for quilting, but I've not actually tried that. All right, so I have had this cut out for a while. I don't even, I was looking behind me because I don't even have a sample bag of what a Winter Crescent looks like in here, but it is like a crescent style, or what some people call like a hobo bag. Normally I do it with an outside pocket and an inside pocket. Oh, your long arm hates glide. Oh, that's too funny. But this I've had cut out from old jeans that ripped, so I was like, what can I do and recycle? So I'm gonna try it. I'm a little worried because up towards the top it has 2 mayors, and if I pick it apart, I'm gonna lose that stitching here, and I like the look of that stitching. So maybe I'll trim it down after, or right now, to try to make it a little bit less material to go through, but we'll see. So I feel like this is either gonna turn out really well or just be like an epic fail. And hopefully it's not a fail. Oh, Arnetta, you bought the pattern? I'll show you. Let me see. So last Tuesday when I was on my live, I was talking about how I was testing 2 patterns. So the Abracadaffle was one of them from Carbon Chic, which is Demi. She's Australian, and I had so much fun. It's so clever how this bag comes together. And I was also really excited because, so the sunflower print is from my shop, and it is what we're calling Majestic nylon, which is basically like a bonded nylon, or each sewing group kind of calls it something different. And I hadn't sewed with our own prints yet, so I was really excited to make it. And I used one of our poinsettia pulls, which even though it's a poinsettia, I feel like the floral goes, but how cool is this? So it zips all the way around, and then you completely open it up, and it turns into a duffel bag. And I think it's so clever. Like the zipper in the center becomes almost like a I don't know, like a feature. And so I thought it was cool to have a pull. If you have like a really nice pull that you like, it comes a center point. And I used webbing for mine in the pattern. She talks about like a gross grain ribbon, but if you have a strong machine, the webbing wasn't a problem. And then I just tucked into the bag while it was wrapped up the crossbody. So it's a really cool pattern. She released it Friday, I think it was Friday, and I put out the video. The only thing that's a little bit different is there are inside slip pockets. So I showed it 2 ways, and I think the final pattern she goes with the second way. And the other thing is that when I did the video, she originally had to stitch it down across on the bottom first, do the handles, and then do the top, and now she has to do the handles first. But otherwise, the pattern, the video follows the pattern, and it's really cool. You want to pick something that you don't mind seeing the back, because this white is the backing to the Majestic nylon, and I used ripstop for the inside. So you do this, the side panel on the inside, that's the backing to it. So there's not separate like linings for the pockets. So just keep that in mind. But it's such a cool bag. It has pockets on the side, a large one on the back. And I just love that it zips up completely for storage. But yeah, I had a lot of fun testing that for her and doing the video. That was my big project last week that I had been working on. All right, so for here, I haven't even cut out the zippers. I'm not going to do a interior pocket. I'm just gonna keep it, you know, just lined. So I didn't cut my zipper tape for 2 reasons. One, because I was still planning what I wanted to sew, but one of the things about this bag that makes it a little bit difficult is how the D-rings get put in. And they get put in on the ends, but there's no gusset. So for people who are afraid of gussets, it's a great bag, but it can be a little bit tricky how it's done. And part of what makes it difficult is that I usually put a zipper tab on one end, and in this case, I'm going to try to leave it with like a zipper tail that could then be tucked inside. And I'm going to try that because I think it might be a little bit helpful for people turning this bag. So basically, I'm cutting the zipper tape a little bit longer than what it needs to be. And because of how I'm going to do it, I'm not even going to put my pull on yet, but I am going to prep my zipper. I love when they get folded down to like a 90-degree angle. So normally I mark the measurement down and fold it so like it's like from the back, the wrong sides are together. And then once it's pinched, I pull the teeth so they make that 90-degree angle. And I broke a clip. I love doing my zippers like this just because it allows your bag to open wider than what a zipper tab would. So in this bag, I always put one end, and so I'm just going to stitch it down to hold that in place. It was a little tricky getting this method down, but I found that putting my needle into it first before putting my presser foot really helps. So have you guys ever made anything that's like upcycled or with old jeans or old fabric and repurposed it? I don't like wasting things. I try to like recycle and donate as much as I can. But these jeans couldn't be donated. They had a hole in them. And they couldn't be repaired either. So I'm like, what can I do with them? So I figured I'd try something fun. Oh, you melt the edges together, Lucy? So I have seen people do that. I tried it once and I like burnt my finger and I couldn't get it to stick. So I just takes a little bit longer to stitch it, but I just was like, all right, well, I know this method works for me. I'll keep it. But yeah, like exactly like Lucy was saying, you could melt these edges if you fold it so that they line up. What I'll do is I'll just trim these off after. My dad's picking on me because I mean, even now I have some jeans that were like made with holes, and he's always like, "You paid money for those jeans, they have holes in them already." These were not one of them. Oh, that's really cool, Nicole. I love seeing that too. There's a woman that I follow on Instagram that makes all sorts of really cool clothes from stuff she's found at like thrift stores, and also from like tablecloths, curtains, all sorts of stuff. Oh yeah, see the curtain. Yeah, that's so cool. It's something I would never I would never think of, but what's nice too about curtains is they're usually, like, I guess depending on the kind, they're usually made with like a heavier weight. So I can imagine that you could do a lot with them. So in this pattern, I normally have like a zipper end on this side and have it go only so far. And I didn't measure centers. Honestly, I'm just like estimating and hope it works out. And this one I'm going to clip off and leave this tail basically down. I'm not going to sew all the way to the end because I want to be able to tuck that in later. Oh, that's really nice, Nicole. It's so cool talking to like the older generations, especially, like they had to you know, like reuse and upcycle so much. Also, I realized that there's a slit here, so I'm just going to make the curve make sense. And hopefully it looks okay after. It's really neat too because I feel like there's a lot more of a focus on like slow fashion and not being so wasteful. And I really try, like when I'm sewing, I know there can be a lot of waste. So I try to keep like all my scraps or repurpose them or reuse them. And I'm going to base this into place because the other thing with this zipper, it can get wavy. It might still get wavy just because of the material on the back. But I'm going to try, and I'm hoping it goes through, especially where it has that double layer of fabric. If it gives me trouble, then I'm going to pick it apart. Oh no. I'm sorry to hear that, Lucy. That stinks. I couldn't imagine like borrowing something from somebody and not returning it. It blows my mind that that happens. Oh, that's really nice, Arnetta. So here in New York City, they have a law where if it's like usable material, it's made for like the garment district and like those types of industries, where it's like illegal to throw out certain textile scraps in certain quantities. So there's a company here in New York called Fab Scrap, and they have a warehouse in Brooklyn that is all like material that's been saved from landfills, and they actually they opened up a warehouse in Philadelphia, and they have online. So if any of you guys are interested in that, it's a really cool. I've bought quite a bit from them. I haven't gone in person, but I've ordered online, and it's, like I said, it's random. You'd have to check back constantly because they just sell, you know, whatever they have saved from going to a landfill, so it's never the same items. I bought some really nice leather from them that I haven't sewn yet. Like, I know this machine can handle it, but I haven't attempted to do anything. Aw, no worries, Lucy. This has been cut out for so long. I didn't even interface this. I think it's just a duck, like a duck cloth, that I got at Walmart. They have those, I think it's like 3-yard packages of duck cloth. So I'm just going to use that for the liner. And I didn't interface it because the jeans material is, like I said, so thick that I wanted a thin material that I figured I could sew. I'm just clipping it right sides together, making sure it's like the zipper is sandwiched. And on this side, it gave me a little bit of trouble going through, but I think it's going to be okay. Hi, Deb. I'm glad you guys did too. Yeah, today I work remotely and on Tuesdays, and I did so much work that when I was done, I was relaxing, and I didn't even schedule this ahead of time. So I'm glad that people are remembering or got the notification to hop on. I appreciate it. I'm on a roll tonight. This is my 3rd clip that I've broken. But I find that once they start to go, they all tend to go. I haven't bought clips in a while, so. Alright, and I just pulled this tail when I got there down out of the way. Actually, I'm going to clip it so it stays down, because for this one, I'm going to follow my seam allowance from the top here all the way across. And I'm just switching out for a zipper foot. Like I said, I really hope it comes out as I've envisioned it. And if the zipper works, how I'm doing it this time, I'll be pretty happy, because like I said, this was the hardest part that I know people struggle with in this pattern. So if I can give an option that makes it a little bit easier to turn, that would be great. I'm just going to check it, make sure I caught everything, because when I noticed, yeah, so this is good. When I noticed that I had to snip into the curve a little bit because of that slice. I was afraid that I wasn't necessarily going to catch everything, but I did. So that is good. And now this might be where I have another problem, because now I'm going to top stitch it. So I folded my lining to the back, and I'm going to top stitch. But again, that's where this thick area, I wonder, I'm going to try only, like picking apart where it folds onto itself. And maybe if I only do it from the back, it will keep the thread look in the front. Because that is going to end up being like, it's already folded over on itself. It ends up being, I think there's like 8 layers of jeans already and then folded onto itself. So alright, well, I guess I'm going to try and make it work. I mean, the one good thing about this machine is that with the metal gears, it will pretty much sew through it if I can put it under its presser foot. Because it's going to give me trouble picking it apart because I've sewed the zipper into it already. And I think I'm just going to hand crank right here because that's the part I'm worried about. And so for top stitching, I'm only top stitching from where my zipper starts to where my zipper ends. Because if you go past it, that's where you can get like, it starts looking funny. Or like when if you're making like a, you know, a pouch or something and you turn it out and the sides don't poke out completely, they stay inwards, that's the reason. Alright. I almost feel like I should have like safety goggles on. I hope this needle doesn't snap. And I just backstitch at the beginning and the ends of when I'm top stitching. I don't usually try to worry about hiding the thread, but I do try to make sure the thread blends in though. So that's why I chose the navy thread, so that way if this doesn't, if it doesn't stay perfectly straight or even stitches, I'm flipping it because I'm hoping that I can stitch it down enough that it doesn't become a problem opening the zipper. After I'll show you how many layers it has gone through, which is for one of the reasons that I'm a really big proponent of older machines for bag making, especially if you don't have the room or you're just starting out and you don't want an industrial or they're very expensive. So these older machines can go through a lot of layers. I'm sorry I'm doing this part so slow, but I really don't want it to end up snapping my needle or breaking a thread. I didn't put my pull on yet, so it worked out pretty well. The only part is a little bulky is right here, and that's because it's the seam on the side of the jeans. So this, my jeans originally looked like this. So this was the front pocket and then the back. So this side seam has so many layers coming together. So you can see it bulked, but I don't think it's gonna get caught on the zipper. I'm gonna actually add the zipper on and see. And I just also do this by hand too. I've done so many that I've just kind of gotten used to it. I usually try to make sure that my right tooth is a little bit higher than my left one because I'm right-handed. In this case, my left tooth's a little higher, so I'm just trying to see if I can line it up. That side's a little, it makes it difficult when the right-hand side is not done first for me. And I didn't singe the end or anything, so that's why you see it like fraying a bit. Thanks, Arnetta. Yeah, so this is, whenever I make bags, I always get worried when I'm top stitching through the lining that it gets caught, so I always try to check them, and even though this is more bulky right here, it's not getting caught, so I think it's fine. So this is, well, I guess it could be the front or the back. I put this so it will be my front, just because it has the pocket, so I thought that would look cool as the front of the bag. So I'm just going to repeat it for the other side. And this side should be so much easier because I used a part of the leg that didn't have any pockets or belt loops or anything. What I am going to do is where the center seam is, just trim that down so it makes it easier for the zipper. But honestly, if my machine can go through this side, I hope I don't have any problem on this one. And this is partly where I should have actually measured, because now I have to figure out where this lines up appropriately. So again, just hoping it works out. So this is actually one of the bags that I applied to teach in Las Vegas this summer. So that's also another reason why I wanted to try this a different way with the zipper. Because I also think like having options, I'm definitely like, as a bag maker and when I write my patterns, I like when people kind of make it their own, and modify it or do what works best for them. Like, I never get offended. So that's another reason why I'm like, oh, let me try it a different way. And it's also things I feel like as my skill with bag making has increased, it's given me, I feel more comfortable trying out different options. And again, I'm just basting the other side of the zipper, I don't think I said it, with the teeth side facing down. So are any of you sewing anything or working on any projects? Doesn't have to be sewing related. Yes, I agree, Nicole. And normally I wouldn't experiment that with them on like a live for the first time, but because this is my own pattern, I've had it cut out forever. It's like repurposed material, so I'm like, all right, well if it doesn't work out, then it's not a huge deal. Ooh, the pretty lady tote, nice. And I didn't mark where I stopped for this tail, so I hope that I stopped around the same edges. Oh, Arnetta, for canvas for the duffel. Yes, make sure that it is like flexible. One woman did use water resistant canvas, but she said it was a little bit tough to get it to fold down. So I definitely recommend something that is like very pliable, squishy. All right, and so now I'm just adding my lining. And again, I probably should mark my centers and go from there, but because I didn't, I'm just lining up the edges. Oh, Deb, that's so funny that a year and a half ago. I had one like that. It took me, like, I didn't finish it until I think it was like 2 or 3 years later. Well, that's exciting though. Now you just have to put it together. Yeah, I'm working on a quilting project. So this weekend, it said it was fat quarter friendly, but then how I planned it out, I didn't have enough of the colors of the fabric that I needed. So I just got some more in a week or two ago. So this weekend I spent cutting out more of the quilt blocks and also another bag that I'm testing. Oh yeah, no, Arnetta, cotton canvas should be perfect. Cotton canvas is actually, I think, my top 3 favorite materials to make bags from. I love cotton canvas because it's a little bit sturdier than just like, you know, the regular quilting cotton, but still gives you that flexibility. All right, so now I'm actually stitching at the full seam allowance. You do too, Nicole? Yeah, I don't know. It's something about it. I just really like how it sews on the domestic. And also I find I get sometimes like panels with cotton canvas, so then they make like good accent features on the bag. I'm just being really mindful as I'm sewing along the curve of the zipper. Because of the shape of the curve, it wants to kind of like fold in on itself at some points. And honestly, I'm hoping that I'm keeping like I haven't stretched it too much, so it doesn't turn out wavy. But honestly, I don't know with that first side. This is going to be the test in a second when I fold it back on itself to see if I lined up the zipper or if it's crooked. And I'm just switching back to my regular foot. I always use my regular foot when I top stitch. That little hole that's like the oval in the middle, I use like the edge of that to guide where I put my top stitch. All right. And I'm gonna put my zipper pull back on because I could leave it off, but the zipper is going to open up completely and separate this, which might not be a bad thing, but I think for me it's just easier to have it on. So I'm going to put it back on. And this zipper is not one that I carry. It's I got just a huge roll on Amazon, and it's a little bit more, I don't want to say flexible. Like the edges, like the actual tape part, are a little bit more flimsy than I'm used to. It's not bad at all. Like once it's on, but it makes it a little bit difficult for me when I'm doing stuff like this, because I'm so used to it being like sturdy and I could just balance the pull or whatnot. Probably would also help if I singed the edge, but there we go. All right, so I actually did a pretty good job of lining up where the zipper starts and ends. And it only looks a little bit wavy here. We'll see how it looks after I top stitch it, but oh, Nicole, no worries at all. Especially if you guys are on West Coast. Like, you know, here it's 8 o'clock and whatnot, but on the West Coast, I know that everyone's still busy and planning things. And this side should be much easier to top stitch. And what I'm going to do, or what I try to do, is make sure that I'm pulling my lining away so it doesn't get caught up and create like almost like a bubble where your zipper pull can get stuck. And also, again, because of the shape of the bag, it wants to curl on itself, so that's why it's also important to monitor that your lining's folding back correctly. Oh, that's nice, Lucy, that they're still, it's like early enough that they're still like playing or whatnot and keeping themselves entertained. Yeah, I'm a night person. And I also feel like 8 p.m. kind of works where hopefully most people West Coast time are out of work and could tune in, but it's not too late on the East Coast. So that also top stitched really, really well. And again, I'm just checking because there's nothing worse. I can't tell you, I've made like a few different bags where I don't check that it opens, and then I go to open it and it gets caught on my lining, and I've gone too far and I can't fix it. Alright, so these edges, you'll see there's like the opening here, because this is where our D-ring's going to go. So I'm going to sew the sides together, but I have to do them the exterior first and then the lining because of the shape. It like I said, it wants to fold. So if you try to do both the lining and the exterior at the same time, it's very hard. Oh no, the flu's been awful. I was really sick in February. Like, that was one of the Tuesdays that I took off with everything. It's going around, and especially kids in school or whatnot. It's just so easy to pass everything. And because I'm not in the classroom anymore, like, I go in and observe teachers, but I'm not like in the classroom constantly. So I feel like my immunity is not quite as built up as it was. So I'm just lining the exteriors, putting them right sides together. And I was very mindful over here when I was clipping, because I want that front pocket of my jean to actually be like a pocket. So I was making sure that I caught the side, so that way, like, if I did put something in it, it wouldn't fall out. Nope, the D-rings come last. So you haven't missed it at all. So this was my version of like how you could make this style bag without a gusset and still have the D-rings on the sides. So yep, you haven't missed it. Once I get the interior and exterior sewed up, that's when we'll put them on. Because a lot of bags like this have a magnetic snap or some type of snap to hold them closed, and I prefer a top zipper, especially like riding the subway and stuff. All right. So keeping my lining out of the way, I'm just going to stitch all the way around my exterior. I'm just taking my time because I have those thick areas again. Oh, magic side strap. Nicole, you'll have to send me a picture of what those look like. Are they the ones that like slide over and then you screw them on? Because I've seen them and I really like that style. And so when I get to the top, I'm just pulling my lining to make sure that I don't accidentally catch it. Oh, that's great, Nicole. I'm glad to know that they work. I'm really hesitant with a lot of connectors That's one of the reasons that I like mine sewn in. I know a lot of people who just use rivets, and even though I have my rivet press, I don't trust them enough. So anytime that I can sew in my D-ring connectors, I always sew them in. Alright, so I am going to open up my zipper, because I'm going to need to, I mean technically this can open up completely wide, but and I want to make sure my tail is tucked in. And now I'm going to clip my lining right sides together. So the same exact thing. And what I do is that the lining and the exterior are cut to the same size. So I'm going to start at the 3/8 seam allowance, but then when I get about an inch down, increase it to a 1/2 inch. And I'm also leaving a turning hole in the bottom. And normally I have a pocket on the lining, but I had never cut one out. And I like this style of bag. I've taken this to a lot of concerts, the style, when it doesn't have to be like clear or whatnot, because it's still small, and I like that it's flexible, so it like I always put them crossbody, and then it kind of just like shapes against my leg, but it's big enough to hold your wallet and any extras that you want to put in. Alright, so since I have the top part is the exterior, so now I'm going to do the lining, and down here just leave a gap that I can turn it through. Oh my gosh, Nicole. Good luck. Oh, good thing he's cute, right? And that just bunched up because I backstitched, but I didn't cut my threads when I left the turning hole. So that's why you saw the fabric kind of like fly up onto itself. And then I like to trim, because this is where you can see where it went from the smaller seam allowance and I increased it to the larger. It just makes it so that way when you are turning it, it sits nicer in the bag. And then all this lining won't be part of the bulk. And the only part that I don't trim is where that turning hole was, just so I'll be able to have enough fabric in the seam allowance to make sure I catch it when I have to sew it back up. I'm really excited. I have not ever sewed jean material. Like, I don't, you've heard me here, like if if you're not new here, you've heard me talk about how much I do not enjoy hemming. So I have never sewed it, so I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I just hope this last part goes as well as I think it will. So I did not cut D-ring connectors because they're jeans. So basically what's going to happen is when I sewed up the lining and the exterior, there's a gap. And we're going to pull it apart so the exterior is on one side and the lining is on the other. So here's my exterior, here's my lining, and we're going to insert the D-ring. It's pretty much like a box corner. So if you've done a box corner, it's the same concept, except we're going to put a connector in there. So I just need to sew up my connectors first. I don't want to use the 4-fold method because then I'll be sewing through so many layers. So I am just going to trim this down to 2 inches. That way, if I fold it to the middle, it will turn into 1 inch. And my connectors are 1 inch. And actually, I need to grab another. I didn't realize the square, so let me grab another piece. This little cutting board is from Dollar Tree, and it's so... Whoops. Sorry about that. It's so handy to have. I need what just happened in case, I think only TikTok can see what happened actually. I put my thread rolls, I've ran out of room. So I have some of them on top of each other, and so one of them just slipped through and came crashing down. So I apologize. You probably can't, like I said, from the view of the camera on YouTube, I don't think you can see it, but TikTok definitely did. So sorry about that. I'm sure it's really loud on your end. So now I am just going to make these, fold them to center and top stitch them. I could measure them to make sure that it's actually to center, but I'm just going to estimate it because you're not going to see, you're not going to see any of this on the inside. And because it's jean material, I don't feel like I need to interface it at all. I feel like it's durable enough. And so what I'm doing is I'm just top stitching them on each side. And for my D-ring connectors, I normally use a thicker one, like the kind that I carry in my shop. But whenever I test bags, I try to use materials that are not so expensive. So for these, I am just gonna have these D-rings, which are kind of skinny. So they're perfectly durable and fine. I just personally prefer the thicker hardware. So what I'm going to do before inserting the D-rings is I am just going to put the connector through and do a row of top stitching along the bar so they don't get all twisted around. And normally, like if I was trying to make like a I don't want to say professional looking, but for this, if I wanted to get closer, I could switch out to a zipper foot. Um, but for this, I'm just gonna leave it with my regular presser foot. And you may see that stitching depending on how far down we insert our D-ring. So I'm just trying to trim it as close as possible to the connector. All right, so this is the tricky part. But I believe the way that I had did the zippers making it easier. So normally there's one hard side and one easy side. This is the side you can see where the zipper teeth are hanging over. This is where the opening, like if we were to close the zipper pull, where it would zip up to. So that allows us to open this really wide. So I have just pulled it apart. So my lining is on one side, my exterior's on the other, and my seams are lined up in the center. And you're just gonna take one of your D-rings and insert it with the D-ring going down into your opening. And that's why if you need to, you can reach through your turning hole to help pull it through or to adjust it. I don't like a lot of my D-ring sticking out, so you could push it down as far as you want, but I like to leave a decent amount hanging out. And you want your D-ring centered over that center seam. And so now I'm just clipping it in place, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch across. I'm going to do 2 lines of stitching to make sure it's extra secure. But what I need to make sure is you can see on the lining where I have the stitching for the zipper on the left and on the right here, I need to make sure that my stitching across covers those stitches. If it doesn't, then that means that you're gonna see like raw edges when you turn your bag. So I'm gonna do 2 rows of stitching across just to hold that D-ring in really well. And I didn't trim my threads when I did my second line of stitching. So I'm just making sure that, again, that I'm catching them all, cutting them all. Alright, so I have my 2 lines. It should be good. If you want, you could flip it out now and check. So what you could do is just kind of pull it through the turning hole and make sure. So what I was talking about where you need it to catch is right here. Oh, this is an extra piece I need to trim down. So you'll be able to tell that you did it correctly because this is completely encased. If you didn't sew across that stitching, you would see raw edges here. So we're just going to do the same for the other side. And so this is where it would normally be a little bit difficult, because on this other side, on the original pattern, I had put a D-ring not a D-ring, sorry, a zipper tab. But because I have left the zipper long, it gives us a larger opening. And if you're having trouble, I can actually reach into the bag and open it wider if I need. What I have to do is, there we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm making sure that it is open. So inside where the zipper tail is, I'm gonna basically move my zipper to the bottom. I haven't put like an end, zipper end or anything on it yet, or a tab. But you can see because I did that, this is gonna open up wider than what it was. So again, you're doing the same thing. You're pulling it apart so your lining's on one side, exterior the other, and putting the D-ring down inside. I like make sure one of my seams go left and one goes right from the lining and exterior. And then again, I'm sewing across, making sure I catch those vertical rows of stitches. That is like the number one important thing, making sure that you're catching those vertical rows. But yeah, if you think of this method as just like doing a box corner where you would pull it apart and then sew across, it's the same exact concept. I think that made it, I never even thought of it that way, and then someone said that and I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, and that really helped it click in my brain. So I really like this method if you are not comfortable with gussets, and also because a lot of gussets also have binding, I find. So I figured this is a good alternative. I'm going over a lot of thickness here. This is the side that had that that extra piece kind of sewed on still. So it gave me a little bit of trouble. I'm going to make sure I go over it twice, but that's why I trimmed it before doing my second row of stitching. I trimmed it too close, so I accidentally pulled the thread out. I think the other reason why I like the poly bonded thread is it makes it much easier to thread the needle too. That one went much easier. So let's see when I turn it. So you can trim down these pieces here. I'm not going to quite yet. I want to make sure that this turns correctly, and they might not even be a problem. So now you should have your zipper open and your turning hole, so you should be able to reach through and grab your exterior and just pull it through. And you can make this bag structured. I've made it out of vinyl and, you know, use interfacing, but I really like it not structured and flexible. And then so what I do is I kind of just make sure that I am pushing out where those connectors are. I usually even kind of pull on them a little bit to make sure. And I'm not going to sew my lining up yet. I want to tuck it in to make sure that it zips up and looks okay. All right, so you could leave this tail out or tuck it in. I'm gonna tuck it in right now. And I'll probably put a zipper end on it, like a metal zipper end, but you could just take like a folded piece of fabric and encase it. Awesome. So I, again, am just checking to make sure that it looks okay. There's two, you can see where the zipper kind of pushes down a little bit right here and right here, and it's because of how thick those seams were. But the nice part about the bag is that when you put stuff in, it's gonna bulge out to the left and the right, so it kind of it flattens out your zipper. So even if your zipper looks a little wavy, or does not, you know, look so perfect, once it's filled, it's designed to bulge out. So I have caught everything. Anything that's here are just like little frayed that are sticking through that I just need to trim down. So that's the number one thing, making sure that I have caught everything. And so I'm going to seal up my lining. And I'm not switching out to gray or anything. I'm just going to use what I have in. And you could measure the seam allowance. I just like to tug to the left and the right. It kind of forces it down, the seam allowance down, and then clip. You could also hand sew it, but I am atrocious at hand sewing and I don't enjoy it, so I'd rather just stitch it closed, even if the thread is a little bit visible. So that closes up my opening, and so now I can really tuck it in, and now I'll make sure that I push it out and make sure it fits. And I don't know how well you can see, but because we took a little bit larger of seam allowance, the lining fits pretty snug inside. And then when I zip it, it does have a little bit opening right here in the bag at the beginning of the zipper teeth and at the end. But now that's where I tucked that zipper. So yeah, there is openings there. That is correct. It's just if you went all the way to the edge, you wouldn't be able to turn your bag or have your D-rings come up from the sides. But yeah, so this is how I like to add D-rings to the side without adding a gusset in. And maintaining a zipper, because that's the important thing. You could do this and you know, top stitch all the way around, but when the zipper's in, it has to be done a very particular way. So I'm pretty excited about this. This is kind of like my first upcycle with jeans, and what I was saying is when I was stitching it, I was being mindful of the pocket. So this was my front pocket of my jeans, and it's actually a usable pocket now. And this one as well. So it would probably be good for like chapstick or something small. You can actually even put like cards or something in this, a little tiny card wallet or whatnot. Alright, so this was my upcycle to the Winter Crescent bag using my old pair of jeans. So I hope you guys enjoyed it tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, especially I know I didn't schedule it ahead of time, and a lot of you are returning, so I really, really appreciate that. I hope you guys are having a good week, and if you're living somewhere where it's cold, it's finally warming up here in New York, so I hope it's the same for where you guys are. Aw, thanks, Nicole. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm so happy with it. Like I said, it's big enough that I can put my wallet, chapstick, keys, sunglasses if you use them. You know, it won't hold a ton, but it definitely holds your essentials. Thank you so much, Lucy. All right, so thank you guys again. I hope you guys have a good night, and hopefully I'll see you either on social media or next Tuesday night. Good night, everyone. Bye.